Hi Facebook. It is 8:45. I'm going to wait just a few minutes to let Facebook build an audience, and then we are going to get started. Tonight we are talking about the letter of resignation. We are continuing our series on how to leave a job on a good note and how writing can help you in the process from the beginning to the end. Last week we discussed how to see if you qualify for the position you are actually applying for. We learned last week about 36% of people don't actually qualify for the jobs that they go out for. And I gave you all a strategy on how you could go through the application, the qualifications that are typically posted for your jobs that you are applying for, somewhere online, or if you have an application that you picked up by hand. Some companies still do use handouts. So, you just go through that process and look at the nature of the work, the experience they're asking for, and you do what you call annotation. This week, we're going to talk about the actual letter of resignation, how to resign from your current position so that you can take the new position that you qualify for. And then on next week, we are going to discuss what to do once you get on the new job. There are some things you can do in the area of writing that will help you see where you fit best. And then that way you can get on the new job and start off on a good note. So that's where we are. And again, tonight we're going to talk about the letter of resignation. So just stay tuned, give us just a few more minutes, and then I'll go ahead and get started on tonight's video. It is Right On Wednesday. I am Adrian Harris from Right On Consulting Agency, and I'm going to present to you the Adrian Harris method strategies you can use. So just hold for just one quick second. Just while we wait, I want to go ahead and give you a rundown of our schedule on Wednesdays at 8:45. We do Right On Wednesdays. And you guys, I am open to topic discussion, so feel free to, inbox me, comment below on any of the live videos on any topics you guys would like me to discuss. After next week, I have a few things in mind that I would like to do, but nothing is set in stone. So if there's something pressing that you guys want to know or learn more information about, please feel free to contact me. I don't mind getting on and doing videos specifically for you guys. That is part of what we do. We are a service company that deals directly with writing. And so if you need some help, maybe with your commas, and you'd like to see a Right On Wednesdays on commas, or if you'd like to see a Right On Wednesdays on resumes, I didn't get into the resume process, but if you guys need that information, just please let me know. And I don't mind doing Facebook Live videos based off what you guys actually need. I think that would be great, to come on and, say, hey, such and such emailed me, inbox me, message me, and ask for a specific video on this particular topic. And then we can go ahead and discuss that on one of our Wednesday nights. So our schedule for Right On Consulting Agency on Wednesdays, we get on and we do Right On Wednesdays. And these are just quick 30-minute videos on various topics. I'm choosing the topics right now, but again, you guys feel free to chime in on information that you all need. I don't mind doing the research and, pulling information that I need in order to present to you sound information on the writing process in its many capacities. There is so much writing involved in the things that we do on a day-to-day basis. Who would have thought that in order to see if I qualify for the job, there was some writing involved? And of course, we learned that information on last week. On Fridays, we do follow-up Fridays, where I come back on Facebook Live and do like a quick 15-minute recap of tonight's video. So on Friday at 6 o'clock, I come back on and do my follow-up videos on the information that was printed or presented to you guys on Wednesday nights. And then on the last Friday of each month, we are doing what we call, I think we called it, when I say we, I'm talking about my marketing person, Janae Hunter. Please visit her page, GH Creatives. She is awesome. She's going to send you weekly updates on, what she's going to be doing for you in your business. And it's just been great working with her. So I think we call it Right On. I can't remember what we called it, and it was my idea. But it's going to be every Friday, the last Friday of each month. And what it's going to be is just a recap of the information over the course of the month. So each Friday weekly, we'll do a recap video over the Wednesday night's videos. And then at the end of the month, we'll do a video for specifically everything that was covered on the month. Now, each Friday, feel free to get on and ask me questions, or if you guys ask me questions throughout the week, I can address those questions for you guys on Fridays. It's not a long time for me to be on, just 6:15, 6:20, so maybe about a 15 to 20 minute time frame that I want to be on Fridays, but it will be a good time to have like a Q&A or an open discussion with you guys. So feel free to contact me. Again, message me. Add comments to any of the videos. I am going back and viewing the comments so that I can reply back to you all. So I will see any information posted, any of the videos, because it is notifying me, of course, through Facebook that I have some new information or some comments posted for Right On Consulting Agency. So feel free to get me that information and I can present it to you guys and ask those questions on Friday. And then on Sunday, we have Reboot Sundays, where we are actually, I'll repost this particular live video of the Wednesday before that particular video. I believe it's going to post at 1 o'clock. And then I'll also be posting the recap videos, and that time is actually from 6 to 8 p.m. And I'll just be reviewing, or the videos that will show up will be the original video that aired on Wednesday, and then any recap videos from that particular Friday. So that way it's just something that'll be fresh in your timeline on Sundays, and maybe you can watch it before you go to work, or start your work week as you begin to chop for another week. So that's our rundown. We are on Sundays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And I look forward to each one of those days. We're not live on Sundays. Sundays are just our reboots and our reposts of the original video and our follow-up videos. But we are live on Wednesday and Friday. So please feel free to join us at those intervals during the week. So today we are going to get into our letter of resignation. Most of us know that a letter of resignation is just that. It's an actual letter. So tonight's video is going to follow our letter format, how to properly set up a letter. I'm sure this information you guys learned back in elementary school. For sure, I think I remember teaching it maybe to 6th graders, just kind of doing a recap. So it is something you learned when you were extra young. Or I won't say extra young because I don't know how old you guys are. But it is something we learned in our youth. I will say that in elementary school. So it's a concept. It follows the same basic letter concept. You put the date on it. You put your address. You put the address on it to the person you are actually addressing. You head it properly. Write your paragraphs. And you close it out. Tonight I want to get into the specifics of how to actually formally greet the person you are writing to, and then give you some tips on what you can actually write in the letter of resignation, and then of course how to close it on a friendly note. Our first takeaway is to not submit your letter of resignation prematurely. One thing that ends up happening sometimes with jobs, and I don't have any personal experience, well, I think my personal experience with this particular job that I just took is when I entered the process of me actually applying for the job and then actually started has been about a 5-month process. I actually applied to the job back in December, and I'm actually starting the job next week. So it's been a few months, 4 to 5 months. The whole process has taken a while. And so one thing I could not do was say, hey, I went to this job interview. I did great on the interview. Indirectly they offered me the job, or I got wind that the job was mine, or that they were looking at hiring me. And guys, that was not the time for me to turn in my letter of resignation. So that's my first takeaway. While you are in the process of possibly transitioning jobs, please wait until you have signed a new contract before you turn in your letter of resignation, or at least you have a start date. I didn't have a start date I got word that the job was mine. I was even in contact with the guy who interviewed me and said, hey, you are a go, but I still didn't have a start date and I didn't have a contract. And so all of that information does matter in terms of when to actually submit your letter of resignation. I signed my contract and the next day I turned in my letter of resignation. So that's how I handled in terms of time frame when to actually turn the letter of resignation in to my boss. That was the kind of the tip for me. Hey, I have a start date and I've actually signed the contract. And one thing for me, I wanted to wait to sign or to turn in my letter of resignation because I wanted to read over the contract to make sure, what I went to the interview with the mindset of was the same thing that was actually being presented to me. So you don't want to turn in your letter of resignation and then you go in maybe a week later and sign a contract, or you sit down with your new HR department and it's not all that you thought it was going to be based off some information you read previously. So just kind of be mindful of that, and that way you won't prematurely leave one job thinking you're going into another position and you're not satisfied. So that's takeaway number 1. Don't leave or don't turn in your letter of resignation prematurely. So the very first thing you want to do when you are writing your letter of resignation is to have a friendly but formal opening. Janae, can you hear that in the background? The washer is going. Sorry guys, I cut it off, but I think it started back up on its own. It's just trying to make sure you guys can't hear. I can hear it. I think somebody cut it off for me. Thanks, Mom or Hillary, whoever that was. All right, so the very first thing you want to do is have a friendly but formal. Okay, yeah, I think somebody cut it off. Sorry, guys. I cut it off before I got started so it wouldn't be loud and bothering anybody, namely me, because it's a distraction. I can hear it, but I think somebody cut it off. Hopefully they cut it off. Let me text somebody to cut it off, because it may have just stopped on its own. Sorry, guys. I did take care of that before I got started, clearly. Alright, so you want to have a friendly but a formal opening. And by opening is dear whoever. The research that I did suggest, depending on the nature of the company, that you can say Dear John, use your boss's first name if it's that kind of atmosphere or that kind of business that you work in. Or if you have something that's a little bit more structured and more formal, of course you want to use your boss's last name. So Dear Mr. Harris or Dear Mr. Wickerson or even Dear John. You can use first and last name, but they do suggest that you stay formal and be as friendly as possible. That's takeaway number 2. This is not the time for you to go off on your boss or go off on the company you are leaving. People do leave their jobs, and bosses know that, but this isn't the time for you to be upset about anything that's happened in the past. Just the statistics that we can look at for tonight's video is that more than 2 million Americans are voluntarily leaving their jobs every month. So it's not uncommon for people to have to write letter of resignation. So possibly that's one of the reasons why I kind of went this route. With the videos, I did want you guys to be aware of the fact that a letter of resignation, of course, is a piece of writing, and it does come with leaving a job. So just know that you are not alone if you decide to voluntarily leave your job in the next month. You are among the 2 million Americans who leave their jobs voluntarily. All right, so be friendly, be professional, but also be friendly at the same time. Again, this is not the time for you to go off on your boss or your company and be calling anybody names. Go ahead and stay formal and stay friendly, because you want to leave. You want to leave good. You want to leave, hopefully you want to leave with your character intact, and you want to leaving a good impression on the company or the boss that you are leaving from. And so, again, this is a greeting based on however formal or however laid back the company is. You can say, again, refer to them as Mr. and Mrs. or Miss, and, use a first and a last name or just a last name. Or if your environment is just that laid back, you can just use a first name. All right, second thing you want to be mindful of is to be clear that you are resigning. One thing that can possibly happen during this process is that your boss, your current boss, may feel like they can negotiate with you to get you to stay. And, based on my recommendations of not turning your letter of resignation in until you have completely secured your new job, then it's not going to be up for negotiating at this particular point in time. You're not going to need them to say, hey, we'll give you this or we'll give you that, because you've already put yourself in a position to be working for this new company. So be mindful of that. You want to be clear in your letter that you are resigning and that there's no wiggle room to negotiate you staying. So an example of that would be to say, please accept this letter of resignation from your, and then you put in your job title. So for me, please accept this letter of resignation from South Georgia Regional Achievement Center as the reading teacher. And that gives, very, very specific details about what this letter is intended to do. The purpose of the letter is actually for you to resign from your current position. And then that way they have it on record, one, where you teach or where you actually work, because maybe it's Coca-Cola and you work in a plant that's based out of Atlanta. Or, like me, I work in the school system, so they know exactly which school I work in and then which position is going to need filled. So just be specific, which is takeaway number 3. You want to be as specific as possible throughout your letter of resignation. If you know who your boss is, then go ahead and put their name on it. If you do work in a company as big as Coca-Cola or even the school system and you're not quite sure who the top boss or who the top person is that's going to see it, which was my case. I know who my superintendent is, but I don't know if he even sees the letter of resignations, or does it just go to HR. So I didn't directly address it to my immediate boss. I did the blanket statement to whom it may concern, because I'm not quite sure how far up the letter of resignation is going to go. So that is an option as well. So again, be specific. If you know as much information as you can give, go ahead and give it. And then that way it won't be any room of error on your part or the part of the company to say, hey, I didn't know. That's something too you're trying to be mindful of, because the next thing you want to be mindful of is to give proper notice. And proper notice is typically, standard 2 weeks. You give people a 2 weeks notice, and you can address this in your letter, for example, by saying my last day of employment will be, and then give a specific date. Please put a date on it. If 2 weeks from today is, let's see what 2 weeks from today is. And let's say we were going to resign from our job in 2 weeks from today. It is Wednesday, and so 2 weeks is April 12th. So you would say in your letter of resignation, let me give you your first 2 lines. Please accept this letter of resignation from my position at Coca-Cola. And maybe I don't know enough about Coca-Cola to use that as an example, so let's stick with me. Please accept this letter of resignation from South Georgia Regional Achievement Center as the reading instructor or teacher. My last day of employment will be April 12th. 2017, period. That is how you would kind of tie those 2 sentences together. It gives them a specific date. I didn't put, a closing time when school is over. That would be it for me. But you may need to, depending on if you work shifts. Maybe you work 2 or 3 shifts, on those days, or maybe you have the opportunity to work more than 1 shift. And you may say at the end of my 2nd shift, you may want to be that specific if you work in a corporation or a company like that. So again, takeaway number 3 is to be as specific as possible, so that people, the people who are above you and are working in the company with you and over you and have to go through the hiring process, they'll have the information that they need to be able to hire and fill your job position. So the next thing is optional. You can state your reason for leaving, or you can leave it out, depending on, again, the nature of your business. Are you actually leaving because you just found a better position, or maybe you are relocating. Hey, maybe you're pregnant and you want to leave and go ahead and resign for your job to take maternity leave. And so those are reasons that are called, quote unquote, common reasons for people leaving. And they said if you have an acceptable common reason, then typically people go ahead and spell that out, and they are specific in those reasons. But maybe you are an employee where you really don't like the job you are currently working. For whatever reason, you don't like your coworkers or your colleagues, and you are deciding to leave out of those reasons. I would not put that in the letter of resignation. Again, takeaway number 2 is this is not a time for you to go off. This is not a time for you to give the company or your boss or even your coworkers a piece of your mind. So if you're not leaving on a good note, you are a very, very disgruntled worker or an unhappy worker, then you don't need to include this information in terms of why you are leaving in your letter of resignation. But maybe you're leaving on a good note and you simply just got a new position like I did. So an example sentence of what you can say is, I was recently offered a new position that I have accepted. Simple as that. Now, if you guys would like to see a copy of the actual letter that I turned in, please let me know, and I will get you guys that information, because I did spell out a little bit more in detail as to why I was leaving, just simply because of the nature of why I was leaving. I am, it is a promotion for me. I will actually be a supervisor. It's a supervising position for me, but it's also going to afford me the opportunity to go back to school. And so that was very important for me to include in my letter, because I'm going to get a new degree, which will in the long run benefit Dougherty County, that I'll have more education behind me, should I go back into the classroom, after this particular job. So it's a benefit in the long run, in the whole larger, bigger scheme of things, for me to take this position so that I can get, the additional education in the educational field is going to benefit more people. It's of course going to benefit me, but it'll also benefit the actual school systems at large once I have this, next degree. So I wanted to include that information, just honestly for me to stress, I'm not leaving on bad terms. It's no ill feelings between me and the county or me and my school system or the actual school where I worked. I just got a new position that was going to benefit me on the side of promotions. It was promotions all the way around for me, and I wanted to stress that in my letter of resignation. So I did take the option of stating my reason for leaving, and I think it worked in my benefit. Just on a personal level, my boss was super excited for me, and then, because he knew why I was leaving, he didn't have to speculate as to why I was leaving. And so I'm sure when he told people about my leaving, or even when people got wind of it, they already knew the reasons behind it, and I was able to leave. And I know if I go back, and when I go back to visit, hey, Miss Harris, how's it going? Nobody be rolling their eyes at me. It'll be all good. So just want to say that stating your reason for leaving is optional. And again, if you are going to state your reason for leaving, try to be as specific as you possibly can in your reasonings for leaving. I did include in mine, hey, this is a promotion for me. It's a job promotion, and it's an educational opportunity, or an opportunity for me to further my education and go back to school. And I did put in there at no cost to me, because, hey, maybe they would have wanted to counter. But those would have been the stipulations for me. You got to be willing to, one, give me a supervising position, and then pay for me to go back to school. Because I think somebody kind of joked, Ms. Harris, what can we do to keep you? I said, pay for me to go back to school. That's one of the reasons I took the job, because it does have that component. That's probably the reason I took the job. It does have the component of me being able to go back to school. I guess it's kind of like neck and neck. I took the job too because it's writing, and this is what I do. This is like the thing I love to do next to teaching. And there is probably, I have a degree in English because I love to write. I have a degree in teaching, or my certificate in teaching, I think, by godly, like God, because I didn't want to do it. Even though I come from a line of teachers, my mom is a teacher, my dad I think he has his certification to teach. I just didn't want to go to school to be a teacher. I really wanted to go to school to be a writer. And my mom kept hassling me. She's like, Asia, you need to get something. She just hit one of those, what you going to do with that degree? And I wasn't wise enough then to do my research. to say, hey, what can I do with an English degree that's really going to benefit me, that's honestly going to make a living where I'm not like bumming out somewhere. And I didn't do my research. So I didn't have an answer from my mom when she was asking me, what are you going to do with this English degree? It was like, Mama, I don't know. Like, and I know I had an attitude with her about it. I don't know. I don't know what I want to do. I just know I wanted to write. I knew I wanted to write. I actually love writing. And so that was like my heart concerning it. So, make sure, hey, young people, make sure you know why you are going into the fields you want to, because your parents are generally just concerned about you, and a person. So, this job is a big deal for me on so many levels, just outside of going back to school. It's like I'm returning to my first love, the thing I absolutely love to do, and I get to do that and teaching, because it does have the tutoring component with it, and I'll be able to do teaching on writing as well. So I'm like super excited. So point number 5 in your letter of resignation, one thing you may offer your boss is to be willing to help transition the next person that's coming in. This is not a requirement for you to help out with the transitional process, but you may want to offer your services. You may want to offer that on your way out, just as a measure of being polite and kind, especially depending on the nature of the work that you do. Maybe you are an AP in the school, and you may want to help the new AP that's coming aboard transition into the new position. Maybe you are a top executive on the job, and you may decide, hey, I'm going to take this position over here in California, in Texas, in Japan, in China, in Australia. And I want the company to still be able to stand and still be able to do well. Even though I'm leaving, I still want the company to do well. And that's kind of the tone you want to leave on. You actually want to wish the company well. You don't want to go out, again, take away number 2, going off on people. Even though you may not be happy with your position, you shouldn't want to wish. Just go ahead and leave. You don't have to wish, ill will on the company or your boss. Just go ahead and leave the company. And this particular component will help you, remain friendly and cordial and keep the letter light and friendly. So that's one thing I liked about the component of it. One thing that I did to kind of help out in transition, for me, is I do the bulletin boards at work, and I volunteer to do them. Nobody asked me to do them. I get it from my mom. We will go over the summer and actually help her get bulletin boards done. And so I just do the bulletin boards on my job. And so that was one thing I did in transitioning. I went ahead and redid 2 of the boards. They had been up since February, so not a long time. And they were our Black History boards, but they weren't necessarily Black History specific. Like, we didn't have Martin Luther King up on the wall or Sojourner Truth. We just kind of highlighted some things that were pertinent to the theme that was, this year, that talked about education. So they were okay to be up, but I did want to change them out before I left. One, that it was, coming up on testing time. And then 2, something that could kind of keep them throughout the rest of the year so that nobody else would have to worry about it. So I put up like a board. One was called, I did like a game show theme. One was like a Wheel of Fortune, and then the other one was like a Jeopardy board. And I was able to kind of put in some end of the year tips the kids needed to know, and even the teachers needed to know, and then just some tips in general that would kind of keep the kids motivated as to why they are in school in general, to kind of keep them focused for the next couple of weeks. This last little 9 weeks, this last little home stretch, they were able to have the information to, to look at it from time to time as they pass the bulletin board. So do what you can in the transition. It's not a requirement for you to train your replacement, but if you do feel led, or if you do feel like your job is that pressing where you need to, go ahead and put that information in your letter of resignation so that your boss knows that you are willing to help train the next person who is coming behind you. All right, so the next thing you want to do, so let me just do a quick recap of what I've said so far. The first thing is do a friendly, formal greeting. Dear such and such, Dear Miss Harris or Dear Adrian, depending on the nature or the culture of your particular business that you are dealing with. You still want to be friendly but also professional at the same time. The second thing I addressed was to be clear in your intentions to resign. You don't want it to kind of be left open like you are open for negotiations, because remember, my first takeaway is to not submit your letter of resignation prematurely. And the way for you to do that is to make sure you have a start date or you signed a contract with your new job before you turn in your letter of resignation. The next thing you should do is to give proper notice. Proper notice is a 2 weeks notice at least. There is a recommendation out that you can put in the length of weeks that you have vacation time. So let's say you have 3 weeks worth of vacation time, then you can give the company a 3 weeks notice. So that's another recommendation that's, kind of floating. And then an optional thing you can include in your letter of resignation is to state your reason for leaving. Common reasons are generally stated. If you're relocating, you're getting a new position, or maternity leave are some common reasons for people leaving jobs. And then I just touched on be willing to help during the transition if that's what you are willing to do. It is not anything that I saw that was a recommendation or a requirement, but they do say that you can offer that, and your letter of resignation is the time to offer that. Our takeaways for tonight's video: one was don't submit prematurely. Don't turn your letter of resignation in prematurely. And then our takeaway for number 2 was this is not a time to give your boss a piece of your mind. And takeaway number 3, in all of these things, you want to be as specific as possible, giving as much detail as you feel comfortable giving your boss and the company, and be as specific as possible, of course, with your, who you are addressing the letter to, with your actual, hey, this is a letter of resignation, your dates of as to when will be your last day of employment, and then of course your reason for leaving can be as specific as possible. So the next thing you want to include in your letter of resignation is the thank yous. You want to leave on a good note. That's one of the series hashtags for this particular video, is how to leave, or this series rather, is how to leave your job on a good note. So one thing you can actually do at this portion of the thank you all around part of your resignation is to mention how much you've possibly grown at this particular position, or how much you've enjoyed your experience at the company or in the school system or in the business that you have been associated with for however long you've been on the job. This is the time to do that. It's going to continue to keep your letter light. It's going to continue to keep your letter professional, and also give your employees a chance to see, your employer a chance to see that, hey, I have really enjoyed working here. And even if you have not enjoyed your experience at the particular place where you are resigning for, try to find something nice to say. I guess like our parents always taught us, if you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all. So if you can't say anything nice, then just go ahead, do the basics. Dear Mr. Joe, this is my letter of resignation. My last day will be March 31st, 2017. And be done. I cannot stress enough that this is not a time for you to go off on your boss. All right, so mention how you've grown possibly, or how much you've gained from the position that has helped you secure the new position. Maybe you've gained some experience that did open up the door for you to be able to move on to a better position or another job. Now, it doesn't even have to be a better job, just another job. And just a statistics for you guys, there are 70% of all workers who are actually satisfied with their jobs, but 66 of those 77 people are still open to new employment. So just because you're satisfied with your position and your job and what you do does not mean you may not be open to a new position that opens up. And that was kind of the case with me. I was satisfied with my job. I love teaching. But when this position came open, it was like, all right, let's go, because it is something or an avenue that I'm ready to pursue. I am ready to go back to school. And again, it does have to do with my other love, which is writing. So it wasn't like I was in that job like, oh, I can't stay in this place. Oh, I am so ready to go. Oh, these kids are getting on my nerves. It wasn't that at all. It really was just an open door and an opportunity for me to do some things that I love doing, and that I do have a bigger picture, a bigger scope of things, that I have going on in my personal life, that kind of, the business is huge. And so this is going to help me kind of, get a chance to work on the business. No, I am not going to be on my new job talking about right on. That is not the point of the new position at all. But I will be able to do some research. I'll be able to sit down, actually research how commas work and refresh myself on phrases and prepositional phrases so that I can serve my business on a whole nother level. So I'm so looking forward to doing that. And it's also going to give me a chance to get some experience in hopefully workshopping and collaborating with different people on campus. I don't necessarily get to do that a lot in the educational field. I do get to do some collab with professional learning, but not at this level, not this kind. So, this particular job is opening those doors for me, and all the other jobs I've had have helped me get to this point, I do believe, in some capacity. When, like I shared last week, I was able to go through the qualifications and say, hey, I can do this, or I have done this in the past. And some of that stuff was different things I gained and learned and tried over the years from other jobs. A lot of the stuff was divinely inspired, so even the business is not my idea. It's something God gave me to do. So all of these things kind of go together for me and kind of have helped me get here. But I'm not ignorant to the fact of the mentors I've had along the way, the experiences I've had along the way that helped me see this job as an opportunity and have the experience to be able to do the job. Even though I've never done the job in its fullness before, I have the experience because of the other positions that I've had. And the thank you part of this job is the perfect time for you to say, hey, I've gained so much experience. It is helping me get to my next, level. It did help open the door for this position. Or you can share the moments you actually enjoy working for the company. This year I got a chance to be a part of head up the Red Ribbons Week. So I could have easily included that. Thank you guys so much for entrusting me to head up the different, initiatives this year. I'll never forget it. I'll be able to take this experience with me to the new job, so on and so forth. I believe you'll be inspired to, write it specifically for your specific situation. And that's one thing about Letter of Resignations and probably everything that we write. There are hundreds of templates that are out there, but you have to tailor make it and be specific for you. What new job are you taking? What job are you leaving? What have you gained from the job? We don't all take away the same thing from the jobs that we leave because we're different people and we need different things and we learn and we gain different things from the jobs that we have. So this is a perfect time to say, hey, thank you so much. And it puts you in a position to have personal references intact. If you leave wrong, then when it's time to have a professional reference from your last job, you may not have one. And that's one thing leaving on a good note is going to help you to do. Have that personal / professional reference for any other jobs that you are going to possibly apply for, because my job did ask for specifically professional references. And so I had professional references that I was able to turn in because I just didn't leave wrong in other places. So that's just a note for you guys as to why, doing this properly and being specific. And takeaway number 2, not going off on your boss is important. So we're almost done. The last thing you want to do is the way you started, which was on a kind and friendly note, is the way you want to end. You want to wrap up on a kind note. And that way, you start the same way you finish. One thing we do in the teaching or in the educational field when we do student commentary is they train you to say something nice, get to the rough stuff. If you have to tell them this was not a good paper, you do it in the middle, but then you try to find something that they did do correctly or that was good, to kind of wrap up the end. So it kind of, if you will, softens the blow of the hard stuff that you had to say. And I think this is kind of the same thing. With you leaving, it is going to leave a void, maybe even if it's temporarily, to the company or your boss. And, you want to do what you can to continue to be kind and show that friendliness, and just say, hey, I have enjoyed it. This has been a good experience for me. And you want to just, the overall tone, guys, is it should be one of gratitude. It should be very formal though. And it also should still have a tone of professionalism to it. Even if you are really, really close to your boss, you still want it to be professional. Because one thing that came to mind while I was preparing for this is that a lot of this stuff travels with you. I know in the educational field, I have a file of the last 11 years of my career, and I really am curious to know if my other letter of resignations are in my file folder, because I know they've sent the information. I've had to actually, write in addresses so that the new schools could get the information, could get my files from over the years. So I believe they put all this stuff together, and they have it on file somewhere concerning who you are as an employee, even over the years, if you haven't been with the same company or the same school system, for your entire career. So that's another thing. That's another reason you want this to be professional, because you don't want the letter of resignation to come back and, if you will, bite you in the butt later on, for the lack of a better term. All right, and then the last thing is have a nice closing. A closing is, of course, how you end a letter, and you can say with regards, sincerely is important, best wishes to you guys. Those kinds of things are appropriate in a letter like this. Again, depending on your relationship with the company and the boss, may shape and form how you actually end your letter. But again, you want it to be nice, and you want it to be something that's friendly. So that is all I have, guys. Let's go back over our takeaways really, really quickly. 1, don't submit prematurely. 2, it is not a time to go off on your boss. And 3, be as specific as possible. You want to have a friendly but formal opening. You want to be clear that you state your intentions of resigning so that it doesn't leave any room as to be trying to negotiate with you at this point in the game. Give your proper notice. Make sure that you put an actual last day of employment for you. It's optional to state your reason for leaving. You can be willing to help out during the transition time. Give your thank yous all around. What have you learned from the job that you are actually grateful for, from this particular company, from the company or the business where you are currently working? You can wrap up on a kind note, say something positive to kind of wrap things up, and then have a nice closing. You guys, again, I can't stress enough, you want to have a nice tone, a kind tone, even if you are not leaving on a good note. Even if you really are one of those people, you hate your job, you are not happy, and that is the reason why you are leaving. You don't want that tone to kind of come off in your letter of resignation, because I believe this stuff follows you whether you actually see it or not. It does follow you to where you are going, and you want some good stuff to be following you. So, and again, you may need the company to give you some professional references, and you want to be able to have that outlet as well. And you guys know the old cliche, you don't want to burn any bridges. You may need to go back. You may get to the new job and absolutely hate it more than the old job, and you may want to go back to your old job. And if you've left, in a state of being furious, and you're writing, you giving people a piece of your mind on your way out the door, then you may be shutting the door for you to go back and do that. So that is tonight's Right on Wednesday. When you guys see this video, or as you have watched it, I do hope that you all have enjoyed it. Don't forget to go back on our page and write a review for me. It's simple, a simple process. It's going to let you do stars, which I thought was awesome because it doesn't take long. You can just mark how many stars you want to give Right on Consulting Agency, and then it does give you a chance to write some comments. So please go and write a review for us so that we can know how you guys view us as a company. I am open to reviews. It's going to only help me get better, whether the reviews are good or whether they are bad. I think they're going to be good, but hey, you just never know. And don't forget to let me know if you have some topics you guys would like me to discuss. I am willing and open to address specific topics that you guys have for me. And if not, I do have some things I want to talk to you all about. So enjoy the rest of your evenings. I am Adrian Harris from Right On Consulting Agency. Oh, and don't forget, if you'd like a copy of the letter of resignation that I turned in, I am most definitely willing to get you that information. So please tell somebody who'll tell somebody who'll tell somebody else about Right On Consulting Agency, strategies you can use the Adrian Harris method. Thank you so much, and I will see you guys on Friday for Follow Up Friday. Have a good evening. Bye.